going like, okay,
that could have been better.
Well, no. Just looking at how many times do they have to do this scene, or like.
Oh, you're thinking at it from that perspective.
Yeah, I'm thinking at it from like the perspective of like how many times do they have to repeat this phrase or redo or practice or choreograph. Like there's so many hours of stuff that go. Like it would be interesting to see, like, just pick any movie or TV show and see how much extra footage they have.
Oh man,
like it's got to just be just tons and I mean, of course there are those there's those actors who like nail it on the first take.
Yeah,
but I think a lot of
rare.
actors, like, even if you nail it on the first take, I
you
feel
still want
like
to get like one or two more
exactly
to try and see what else you can
because
do.
Then it's also the other actors in the room. Do they want to try it better? Do they want like, because I can also imagine like there's got to be those times you're in a scene and somebody just blows it out of the water first run and you're sitting there just going, well, I thought we had a few times. Like, I wanted to warm up first. Like, what was that? It's got to be crazy watching, like, being in the room with some actors, even like the ones who are unknown. And because, like, you're, like, sometimes I think, like, the viewer forgets that we're watching people act. Like, they're not of course, like, you want to, like, watch something and go, okay, like, for the movie we're going to be talking about, John Wick.
Yep.
Like, you don't, in no part of the film do you really want to be like, hey, that's Keanu Reeves. Although the cool part of Keanu Reeves is you get to go, hey, that's Keanu Reeves and John Wick. He's one of those special actors where, like, you get to watch him and you get to fully watch him and you just like, that's Keanu Reeves. But also, he's completely John Wick. Yeah. Like, he gets to be both, and it's unfair for a lot of people. Because, like, I'm trying to think of another person who, like, you can watch on...
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise. Nailed it.
Yeah.
That was he is also another one.
As much as I don't particularly like him as a person, he is a fucking amazing actor.
He's
amazing actor.
He's phenomenal, and you're right. Like, honestly, like, I can't even. And I mean, even though I do admittedly like the Mission Impossible films, if you were to ask me like what his like character name was, I'd say Tom Cruise. Like, I can't even...
Oh, God. And I know his name, too, and I can't even think of it right now.
Well, now that only because we've talked it under the context of, like, actors who can also be themselves and completely 100% be the character they're playing. I think that's what's throwing us off from the name, but it'll come to us. It'll be like, Eureka!
Well, the one that I definitely know, because I love the movie, is Jack Reacher.
You know,
I love that movie.
It's I want to like get those because there's movies like so like John Wick, The Equalizer, Jack Reacher.
Oh, Denzel Washington. There's another one.
What did he do?
He's The Equalizer.
Yeah, The Equalizer. Yeah,
no, but he's another one. He's like Tom Cruise. He's like
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yep.
So
those four. Who else have we got? Oh, Ryan Reynolds. Because Ryan Reynolds is...
That's just a person.
He's Ryan Reynolds every time. It's who he is.
And what's really cool is now he's also... Ryan Reynolds is also Deadpool. And like Deadpool is all like...
They're the same person.
Because after that movie you started to see like that's his character.
Yeah. It was as if he was written... It was as if he was born simply to play Deadpool. And the new movie that's coming out with him too.
Where he's in a video game?
Yeah, where he's an actual video game character who decides to switch up what he's doing.
Has that movie come out yet?
No, I don't know. I think it has. I just remember...
Game Over or something like that.
No,
right?
no. It's like The Good Guy or something like that.
The Good Guy.
And I just remember from one of the trailers, he's just sleeping. And the other guy goes, he's got a hole in his chest. He's so tired. You know? You're just like, only Ryan Reynolds could actually pull that off.
Well, it was 100%. It was the same, and I never watched the movie, and I really should, but like, when like Detective Pikachu came out, the moment Pikachu started talking, I'm like, Ryan Reynolds? But also, now weirdly Pikachu.
Yeah. Ryan Reynolds is not forever Pikachu.
It's so... There is definitely like I could see how a lot of people would think like there's an unfairness to that because like there's a lot like actors, non-actors, whatever. Like for you to be able to have that type of gravitas, I really wanted to use that. I don't know why. I was just like, I'm gonna nail this. It didn't go as well as I thought, but I really wanted to like a certain je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, because you're getting it worse.
I like to dig just a little bit deep. Like when I've dug a hole and then somebody like hands me like there's like a ladder to get out or a shovel to dig deeper.
You take the
shovel. Always take the shovel. The ladder will be there. I figure.
I can think of another person who's like that, but in a bad way. I can think of one other actor who's like that, but in a bad way. For certain things. I still like him in a lot of stuff, but Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, really?
Shia LaBeouf, in pretty much all his roles, is still Shia LaBeouf. And that character, but there are few where he really becomes the character, which I love.
His movies that he's been doing that's like outside of Hollywood
are supposedly really good.
Are like I've only like seen like scenes, but they're so phenomenal.
The one where he like plays his dad.
That right? One I heard was like out of this world, especially for him, and what a weird like or interesting way to relive or go through like those types of emotions.
Just explain what he went through.
Yeah, but him being able to experience that and then experience and portray that from his father's point of view has got to be super interesting.
I'm almost scared to see it because I know it's going to be incredibly hard to watch.
Yeah, I think he's one of those ones where even if I don't know where I fall on if that's the case with him, but if it will definitely be one of those where it was the case. Like if I've like the more and more that I watch him now.
Movie, if you think it would be Shia LaBeouf is that person and that person is Shia LaBeouf, you mean?
No, well, I just think like as time goes on and these movies start to become more like widespread if people will watch them, I really think people are like if people have that point of view, I think they're definitely gonna definitely gonna get skewed because like change, yeah. his ability like. I don't know what it was, and I heard him talk about it like a few times, like and I'm not Shia LaBeouf, so I don't really know, but like his separation from Hollywood, it seems to be like a trending thing too. Like these actors are starting to become in these positions where they're put in these environments where they're able to move away from LA and create something and really showcase the art that they've been trying to portray this whole time, and whether it just hasn't gotten like whatever the case may be. And I'm not blaming Hollywood. I'm just saying that
I kind of blame Hollywood.
I'm sure on some level,
blame Hollywood.
And I feel like maybe if I had if I had any stick in that game, I might be able to say a little bit more because it's different for everybody. There's a lot of people who need that Hollywood structure in order to rise to whatever success or like be a part of whatever they want to be a part of. And then there's these other people who decide not even to go near Hollywood and are able to create such art. And then there are the people who dabbled. I mean, there's so many different avenues to take, but it's interesting to see the ones that have kind of like been born or bred up from Hollywood to now who are now to reach a level or maybe in Shia's case it seems like
more personal,
more environmental, of just like the stress that Hollywood placed on him kind of almost squeezed him into his own area. The pressure of the Transformers and the this and the that, like really, like I think at a certain point was almost to his benefit, squeezed him to such a point where it almost pushed him out of Hollywood. And then he finally got to go, oh man, I can do this without and still have a lot of fun, and for it to mean what I kind of wanted it to mean. And he got his own like idea of what I mean. And who knows what the case is? Off topic.
My two favorite roles for him are Holes, which is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Oh, it's such a good movie.
It's so good, and it's because of him.
Especially because it's like Wasn't that one of those, like, it wasn't like an official like movie. It was like one of those like Disney Channel movies, right?
No, it was an official movie.
Was it in theaters?
Yeah.
It was so long ago, but it's interesting because, like, I mean, either way, it still is a fantastic movie.
Absolutely.
You know, and
absolutely great movie.
Him and the other person that's in, like, his friend that he meets.
Yeah,
there,
the one who plays Zero. Yeah.
He also does there's, you know, and
one who plays Hector. His name is Hector.
I guess, like, I guess we should, like, transition into the movie that we wanted to talk about, John Wick, because, like, we could, I mean, all these kind of topics we can kind of pull out of this movie
continuously. Yeah.
It's interesting. This movie, what was it, like 2014, 2015? The John Wick. I mean, who cares?
First one? Yeah.
But I mean, like, it was.
It doesn't matter to me when it came out.
It was so good. Well, and I think that's why, like, I started connecting, like, when we started talking about, like, Equalizer and Jack Reacher and things like that.
Right.
Is because, like, I would love to say, and in my perspective, I feel like John Wick kind of kicked off all of these films.
I tend to think so. I honestly don't remember which came out first. I think it's John Wick.
I would say Equalizer came later. Jack Reacher could be one of those films that could have been like during or right after.
I think it was right after. I think both the Equalizer and Jack Reacher were after John Wick. But they were so good.
These characters in it, like, especially like John Wick, like their ability of focus, I think, is the biggest part of, like, any of these films, especially with John Wick. His ability to zero in on his goal, and then there is no, oh, well, I can't do it this way because of that. There is the goal. Yeah. So there is no, like,
it doesn't matter what gets in my way, that I'm getting to that spot regardless. Doesn't matter what I have to go through.
And it doesn't matter what I have to do. They're like, I'll bite, I'll scratch, they're like, it's
a fight.
Yeah,
it's not a sport competition. It's not a Hollywood fight. It's a fight. I'm going to die if I don't do everything in my power to beat this person.
And his ability to adapt within a given moment, whether it be a fighting moment or even just like a conversation, like whatever it is, his ability to adapt to his environment and be able to change with whatever comes at him. Because again, I think it comes back to it's not him adapting, it's his focus. There isn't, oh no, there's more guys than I intended. There is, that's my goal, and I don't care if there's one guy or 30. Like, there is none of that thought of, oh no, I need more preparation or less preparation.
No, it becomes instinct.
Yes.
And so he goes off of, okay, new thing, now I have to do this, and it's done. And then he goes, oh, another new thing. That guy's dead now too. All right, keep going. And that's kind of all three of them. All three of them are very, very similar. And there would never, I don't think there would be. It'd be cool, but I don't think there would ever be like a crossover movie between the three, which would be amazing in some weird universe.
I think you could. I mean, I think Jack Reacher's out of the picture. Like, I'm sorry, just because, like, and nothing against like that movie or him, but like the military aspect, that just wouldn't fit with like the vibe of like the underground world, like that type of character.
The only one, the Equalizer, seems like it could be.
I wouldn't be surprised, like, if he, you know, was a part of a continent, or
knows of it.
Yeah, he would be a character that I think would be able to walk into that world and be able to blend in. Somebody like Jack Reacher, even though he's incredible and has all these skill sets and would probably be a valued, like, member of the team, if that's what you want to call it. But, like, I think, like, with, like, the whole, like, military background and kind of who he is as a character, he would not mesh. And I don't even think he'd be able to find... It wouldn't
work with the world. It wouldn't work with the world at that...
Which is something that, like... And as much as... And I said this to you, like, before we started watching the movie, is, like... After I watched the film entirely through for, like, the first time and fell absolutely in love with it, for the next, like, I don't know, let's just be a little honest and say 1,000 other times that I've watched this film. Like... I kept skipping the beginning because the beginning is it's so dark is the wrong word. It's so human.
It's depressing. because it's very real.
It's very human. And it was interesting too because I think like over time I had put in this mark on the beginning of the film that it was from the moment you see him until the moment you meet like Aurelio in his shop, that it's all dark. And until like I think this was the first time in a long time that I sat down and watched it from the beginning and didn't skip any part of it, where you realize like, or at least I realized that yes, it's dark, but I think that's where but it's also very human. There are these subtle jokes in the beginning.
Well, what's also really nice though, and I don't entirely agree with you, the whole beginning is dark. The whole point of the beginning is dark.
Yes.
But there are aspects that are exceedingly hopeful, which is why it's so much more impactful.
Well, and without it,
at the end of it,
you don't get the movie.
Exactly. And what's so great is that you get to see that he could, had Yosef not seen him, not been the little d-bag that he is, John Wick would have been fine. He would have been completely fine. None of this would have happened. He would have stayed out of that life. None of these movies happened.
Yeah.
And you see that possibility. You see the possibility with the dog,
of
with
him
Daisy.
just retired. Yeah.
You see that as an actual future.
Yeah.
Until he goes to that gas station.
And it's interesting, and they do bring it up throughout the film a little bit of like, especially like when his father Vigo and John like talk, more towards the end of the movie when they're going like back and when they're like, we're cursed. And that's like something it's funny how their relationship...
Which is like great. I don't even remember that. And when I was listening, I'm going like, oh my God, that's so good.
Yeah, because it ties into because so often, especially in these types of movies, these revenge, like full of violence, full of action, very entertaining to watch. Sometimes it misses the you don't really want to connect an emotional feeling to it. Of course.
Well, it's also a different. Most revenge stuff is way different in terms of the main character. The main character usually in any type of revenge story is a very, very good person who has gone through something unbelievably horrendous.
Yeah.
And it breaks them.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas in this one, he was the bad guy. He was the one that everyone feared. He was the number one assassin badass.
That's true.
And he got out. He still knew he was a bad guy. But he found something worth giving that up for. And he did, and he got it. So you have this aspect of the person taking revenge, but it's not even really taking revenge, it's just going back to what he was.
Yeah.
Which is so rare. You don't get that. In this one, John isn't a broken person necessarily in the same way.
No.
His brain isn't broken. His heart is broken.
Yeah.
So it's a different type of revenge altogether.
Well, and without... It's so
He's not crazy,
It's so interesting too because it's not only the fact that like when you watch like the beginning, you get the setup of it's not just the fact that these guys like killed his dog and like took his car. It's that whole thing of the person that somehow in all of this darkness found a little bit of light in this guy and gave him an opportunity to have a quote unquote normal life or whatever you want to call it, like in her dying, in her last moments, instead of the thoughts being on herself or the pain that she had been through, gave every last of herself to this guy that, as much as he doesn't want to believe it, saved her just as much as she saved him from this disease that she had. He was like in her last wishes gives this dog of like, look, this is going to be tough for you, and you need something to hold on to rebuild, and that's what was taken from him.
Yeah.
And that means so much more. It just increases everything. And so now you're with this guy. Now you're like, you better like get like on it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so interesting, especially, and another nod like to these characters. They're not, and not to say that like it's wrong in other cases, but these characters, even the ones that have short screen times, have such character personality to them.
Yeah.
It's not. They're not just like even the son, like even the Vic, like this arrogant, pompous jerk. Yeah. He's still, but you can see like when he's with his father, he's trying to make sure that he like shows respect and loyalty and is trying to prove something,
which is still really interesting. That's a very interesting aspect, especially when he first when his Vigo first hits him in the stomach after giving him the.
I don't know.
And then he throws the towel at him and says, "Clean that up," and he immediately grabs it to clean it up. I'm like, dang, dude.
And it's interesting. Well, and that too, because it's like beforehand, here's this arrogant punk like jerk that just kind of like he's got everything, he can take anything he wants.
Yeah,
which is 100% true. He has definitely built that life, and his father's curated that life for him 100%. And so, but most times you would go, he's going to be that guy
the whole
time, and it almost instantly like, and it's the same thing with Vigo. It's like you see all like Vigo, like even when we first get introduced to the head guy, he's standing overlooking the city like he runs the joint, about to clear the biggest deal he's ever done, solidifying his power, his authority, his everything. He gets one call that this guy who he knows is going to ruin, like just the name, like it just took one name for this guy who has got such confidence, such ambiance.
Who is essentially the king of the city.
The king was plummeted.
Yeah.
He couldn't even put a sentence together. Like you can see him walking down the stairs, like, and then his henchman's like, "Dude, we did it." They just agreed. Congratulations. Like,
he's not even thinking about that.
He's like,
the first thing is, "Where's my son? Have you seen my son?
Have you seen, like, he is just so like ghosted." And it's interesting to see like these characters, like, because you think oftentimes, and maybe this is something like I do more personally, you think these super wealthy, super sophisticated business people, these successful people, let's call them. To become successful, you kind of need to also have a confidence within yourself to get there,
100%.
right? And you would think that like with what most people deal with compared to their decisions affects thousands of people, right?
Yep.
I mean, and of course it'll vary depending on who you are and what you're doing, but a lot of these people, their decisions, their choices affect or impact a lot more than just the normal sense. And for him to be brought down at that level shows that
with
there's
just one sentence.
Exactly. Shows that there's more to. And I like that they do this even with the guy who works at the front desk at the Continental. They give these people, and this will be maybe way too far into it, but it's the only way I can kind of like wrap everything up into a bow here. Is like they give these people a soul.
From the very first line that they give too. Yeah. And even most of the time it's for half of them it's "Hello, John." It's just one sentence. But you know exactly who they are almost each time with how they respond to him. You know who they're going to be a lot of the time.
And they each get like they of course have like their core personality, but within that core personality you also get to see the lighter moments, the darker moments, the in-between moments, like any character like you can pick out of this film. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've like gravitated to it so much is it really pulls in the human aspect of the characters, because people aren't just so like just because they're bad doesn't mean they can't have a laugh, or they can't share a joke, or they can't even tell a joke,
or they can't do something good.
Right. Like I mean, even you again, like even Vigo, even though like portrayal wise you could see a lot of what he was doing was 100% bad, it was all to protect his son, which is a pretty noble cause.
Yeah, in one aspect, yeah.
So, but I mean, in the total like other aspect, he's hiring everybody he possibly can
to kill somebody.
To kill somebody. But it's I don't know, like those aspects of it for me were like really interesting, and like just on like a movie as a whole, like for something to be portrayed as just this revenge action thriller, for it to have so much heart and for it to have so much like depth to it, and I think because they set it up that way, it makes the creation of their world so much more inviting to us.
Well, it's not just inviting, it's real.
Yeah.
Because it's lived in. You see all the different aspects. You see that it exists.
You kind of want it to be true in real life.
Kind of.
Well, not like I'm not saying that.
Not.
I don't want a bunch of assassins roaming around
who run the world.
But it is kind of interesting to see that, and I'm sure there are like some like it's crazy. I'm sure there are some aspects of an underground world.
100%.
That do have some sort of either truths to it. I do like. The really cool thing about this whole like underground world that they portray is the level of sophistication like to it. Like it's interesting to see these organizations that are comprised of all of these so-called villains, but just like pirates, they have this like code of ethics.
Yeah. Well, what's also great is that their amount of discipline is palpable.
Yeah.
Every single person you meet is exceedingly disciplined. And the ones who aren't are the ones who wind up dead.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
The ones who are, and every now and then a sophisticated person doesn't. We lose, Charlie, right?
Charlie?
Yeah.
Him.
We lose him, and he was a very sophisticated individual, which is sad. But the crazy one was the one who killed him.
Yeah.
Right. And what happens? She forfeited her life.
And it wasn't until like she was disciplined until she
became greedy.
Yeah, and because even the attack in the Continental, it still followed her like character ish. It was until but once she had done that, the switch flipped.
Yeah.
Like, even though, like, her personality was totally bent on doing... If she would have succeeded...
That's why she says in for a penny, in for a pound.
Yeah. If she would have succeeded, that would have been it. She would have gotten the hell out of there and tried to either, whatever... The Continental would have found her. I can't imagine that, like, no matter what you do, like...
Miss Perkins.
It's interesting.
So sorry to be contacted.
Yeah. That phone call and that like her kill scene is like again, it's so well structured. It's like they know exactly where these characters are going, and they know which characters are going to more tie into John and his kind of evolution and Tim kind of turning back into the boogeyman, or the evolution of the world we're now being introduced to. Like Perkins' whole character, at least for me, once you see her character all the way through to the end, was to prove and show how powerful the Continental was.
Yes, 100%.
Like
100%. Well, and that's why I love his like your he doesn't say reservation. He says your was it membership? Or
I think it was like your membership has been
through thine own hands.
Okay, can we spend a few minutes on Winston because he's just
so much.
Like I feel like here's what's really fun about this movie. You can kind of
think of him as like John's dad almost.
You can,
or a really really close uncle.
You can't. What's really interesting about this movie is like really once you kind of get John's like character and why he's doing the thing that he's doing, the rest is kind of open the fair game. Like of course like the incidents like leading up to like him trying to kill like Victor, like the son, is like, trying to get somewhere. But all the other scenes, like it's more tying into the world it's like there's a story going on in a world. Like, it's so interesting how they set up this movie, because it's like, here's like here's like your revenge plot, but also while this is going on, here are all these like humanizing moments between these characters who have all these dark and light complexities towards them. And then here there's also these characters that are almost like they have all this character and soul, but you have no idea who they are. Like Marcus is one of those characters where it's like, here's this guy with this connection to John.
Yep.
And you can look at it either way. He's either had a good relationship or a dark relationship, but over time there's a mutual respect and friendship that's built out of.
Well, you can infer by the end of it that it's been a good connection between the two of them.
Yeah, and I mean, without,
but with the knowledge of either one of us could be asked to kill the other at some point.
Yes. And
that's why he asked him in the beginning, like, why are you here? When he asked him at the funeral, he goes, just checking up on an old friend. You kind of see John go, okay.
Yeah. Like, is this... And it happens a lot to him. John kind of gets in these moments where it's like, are you gonna with me? Or vice versa, because John pulls up on people and is like, oh, are you here for me? Or can I go that way? Like the police, even the police officer, after his first, like, when he kills like those 12 people, and he's like, you working again, John? Noise complaint. He like takes his hat off.
Yeah, Jimmy. Oh god, Jimmy.
He's a good.
We love you, Jimmy.
We love you.
We love you, Jimmy.
We love you. I don't know, like, and Marcus too. Like, it's interesting because in this first film, and I know we'll get to the other ones later on. I don't want to spend any time like diving into them too much.
Yeah.
But this film is interesting. The first one's interesting because without Marcus, John definitely dies.
Yeah.
But
I don't think Perkins kills him though.
What do you mean?
I don't think in the Continental, when Perkins first gets into his room. I just don't think she pulls it off. I think she still fails.
Oh no! No.
But he certainly saves John in that moment,
because he could have killed John in that moment too.
Several different times.
Several different times, and that's what's so exciting about this character, because you have John Wick, who, as we soon learn and keep learning, like, one, he's only like, I mean, if you want to think of it as like a video game, only really unlocked, like, I would say 40% of his potential by the end of this film. Like,
if that,
he doesn't like
his abilities are so high.
Yeah, and it
kind of keeps unlocking in each new movie. You all of a sudden see his skills slowly, incrementally start to come back, and it's each thing he goes, you think you can do that? I'm going to show you how you really do it. And you're just like, well, fuck.
And as his, like, one, it's also the further that he accepts who he is.
Yeah.
I mean, because I remember when I watched it the first time, it was the only scene for a very long time where I was like, could have used a little work.
I think I'm back.
I think I'm back. But, like, especially
the
watching
more times
it,
you watch it,
it works.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's him fighting with his own idea of it as well. That's why there are those, like, hesitations and breaks and almost like foolery about it, is because he's convincing himself.
Every time, like, just visiting, or, it's personal, or
I'm retired.
Or like every excuse he has.
Yeah.
Is contradicted by himself.
Yeah, until constantly. He finally is like, you know what? People keep asking if I'm back, and I'm ready to tell them I'm back. Yeah. And it's at that moment that there is no more fucking around. There is just, it like really highlights his ability to turn that goal on, that discipline, that focus right into, and that is what's so terrifying. That the people around him, they're not terrified of what John can do and his abilities. They're terrified of who he is. Like his speech to Vigo's speech to his son is like super like, this is a man of focus, sure will, something you know nothing about. Like, it has nothing to do with his ability to incite terror or fear, which he does
easily,
beautifully,
just with his name.
But his amount of just sure will to get it done. It doesn't matter how much you beat this guy up, how much you tear him down. He will find a way to crawl to his destination with such tenacity that it winds up terrifying you in a sense. Because sometimes you get into those fights, like you can get like, and I've never been in a fight before, but you can like, I feel like there are those moments when you like, there's this breaking moment. Like when you start to lose a fight, you have two options. You either man up and get back in the ring and flip it,
or you give up entirely,
or your mental just goes. And a lot of people, that's what happens. And it's got to be terrifying, like to watch this guy, even as beaten and broken as he gets, he's still coming at you, and he's not.
And he's still coming at you, and he can still kill you in several different ways.
He's coming
and you're
at
just
you,
like, God damn it! Stop
with such focus that you, even though you're on the winning side, you're terrified. Yep. Like the main like security guard that like gets like one-ups, which again, he's another person that definitely has that discipline.
Yeah.
That because there is no like, he understands, at least on some level, more than on some level, he understands who the hell he's facing and what he's up against.
So he goes, I have to go 100% or I'm dead.
At all times. There is no, at any point, like even that fight scene where he gets the one up, like when he's up, right, and he like gets him with the bottle and he gets these few moves on him, he does not stop. Like when he first gets the 2 shots in his vest or whatever, like a normal like most of the time you see, okay, like, is he good? No, this guy's like, move it. Like, we don't have time to check if he's okay. We're going to go put 8 more bullets in him if we can. Like, this is not the time, which is why he survives as long as he does.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see when he finally, like, loses his standing, because I think he had built himself up so well that when he finally loses grip and understands what he's now truly facing, like the desperation in his face when he's being choked for the final time, like you really know, like, okay, like he's gone into complete panic mode. Like the discipline's gone and he's about to lose his life because he now has lost his own confidence or discipline.
Well, they say they talk about that in fighting. There's a saying, I think most wars are won before, or most fights are won before the first punch is thrown.
Yeah.
And there's several instances actually of that happening with Mike Tyson's old boxing career.
I just was going to say, I was waiting for my moment. You said what you said, and I was like, Mike Tyson.
There's that one fight where the other guy's promoter, I think, or trainer, decided to say that Mike Tyson had something in his glove. Mm-hmm. So they had him rewrap, mm-hmm. which takes fucking forever. And you're going into a fight, but rewrapping in front of everyone else. Mm-hmm. And Mike Tyson is like, "You're fucking kidding me." So he starts, shadowboxing again after everything is wrapped, and he starts, he starts beating the wall. Mm-hmm. And the other guy hears it and goes, "I'm not going fucking out there." He goes, and he hated his trainer after that. He was so pissed. He was like, "You had to do that? You really had to do that? That doesn't get under Mike Tyson's skin. That makes him want to kill me now."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that, like, honestly, like, and it wasn't until I found Mike Tyson like much later in his, like, I've become introduced to Mike Tyson within the last like year or so. Like, I knew, don't get me wrong, I definitely knew who Mike Tyson was.
Right.
I've seen The Hangover.
You didn't understand. Anyone who's watched boxing just went.
I knew I had to, though. But that, like, I knew he was a boxer. I knew he was well known, but the only thing that I had ever seen him in was The Hangover and maybe like
You
one
never
other
really
two.
saw
Like
his fights or anything.
never, and until like in the last year when I started like, or last 2 years I guess, started getting into like podcasting, and I found his again, never saw him fight. I saw his podcast and I started listening to that. And
he's a really smart individual. He's a very, very educated person.
And honestly, that aspect of it is why I've become, and again, as probably everyone is just probably saying, like, I'm not like a fight fan. I just compared Mike Tyson and The Hangover. You know what I mean? But like,
I love fighting.
But like,
I love it.
He definitely was when I started listening to him like communicate and things like that, because I've seen like on Joe Rogan he has a bunch of episodes where he talks about fighting and MMA and you know I've
seen the ones when he talks about Mike Tyson.
Yes, and I've seen the ones where it's him and Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
And I think like I think I saw that first. Like I think I saw Joe Rogan and Mike Tyson, you know, first, and then I went and found Mike Tyson.
It's so good.
But his philosophy or his understanding of mental confidence, whatever you want to, there's so much you could dive into it, but his ability to think about how people are people. Yeah. Like it really like to me had nothing to do with his ability to understand fighting, which he does. His ability to look at an opponent and
he's one of those few that just gets it.
Yeah, he gets the person.
It's the Mike Tysons, it's the Muhammad Ali's, it's the Bruce Lee's, it's the Manny Pacquiao's, Mayweather's. It's people like that who figure out the person who they're facing so completely. Yeah. That the other person can't do anything. Yeah. And that's what was so great about Tyson too was I go back to all these old fights, and you know, Lennox Lewis. You have.
Did we talk about Roy Jones Jr. and him? No, right? We haven't. Did you watch that fight? The most
recent one. I haven't gotten to see it, man. I want to so badly, and I haven't. And I'm just really pissed that I haven't watched it yet.
It has been more interesting. I'll try not to like dive into any of that aspect then, but it has been really interesting to talk to people about it, because it seems that it's interesting to see, like, of course Mike Tyson is 100% back. Like, have you seen any of his like training videos?
It's horrifying.
It's horrifying.
So scary.
But a lot of people, it's terrifying.
It makes no sense. You see this, you're going like, that's a recent training video?
50.
Oh my God.
And it's 54.
Well, and I love Joe Rogan, and he goes like, he was talking about Mike Tyson with like his crew on one of his podcasts, and he goes, just being in his presence, he's a lion of a person. Even when he's being normal with you, you're so intimidated. For no reason aside from the persona that he exudes. He is this monster of a person.
And I don't know, did you see the part in the podcast where it was after, so he had done one with Mike Tyson when Mike Tyson was, you know, not fighting, living his life, having the time of his life. And then when he did the second podcast, and it was kind of like in between when he was moving from California to Texas, and Mike Tyson had that light on. He had that fire. He had that. Yeah. And when he does the new episode in his new studio, he was like, "Look, I was honestly thinking about getting like a shorter table because I wanted like the interaction to be a little bit more personal. Then I talked with Mike Tyson, and I wanted that table a little bit further away." And it wasn't like a gripe against Mike Tyson, but it's just what you were talking about. That energy on the other side of that room. It's so palpable that even though it's not coming at you,
and it's huge. It's just he exudes fighter. He is a lion of a human being.
His new outlook on everything, with like the way he wants to like represent his fights.
Well, that's also not saying that Joe Rogan is no slouch either. Joe Rogan is a badass human being too.
Have you seen him kick?
Yeah, it's again I don't want to get touched by that.
It's terrifying. Well, and that's what's really interesting about, and like, look, like, and again, like Joe Rogan's one of those people, like nobody needs to like talk like good or bad about him. He is in his own like league.
Yep.
What he's been able to create is absolutely like phenomenal.
Well, and he understands conversations. He understands how to talk with someone, even if he disagrees with that person or he agrees with that person. He's so good at playing devil's advocate. And so good at remaining neutral within a conversation. Even if he's giving his own opinions, they come off as neutral almost. Because he doesn't try to make any blanketed statements.
No. And you know what? He gives... Well, and I think it's one of those things where he's like that now. And I definitely think he got that way because he takes those opportunities to find people that are outside his wheel division, which is something that like why nobody else does that more is like again because
now it's just become people don't want to. There are so many people. There's so many people that I watch who are willing to have those conversations with the people they call out.
Right.
They invite them 100 times a year and they never get a response, or they always go no, and they're like, listen, I know I call you out on this, but I do it because you're not willing to come and talk with me. I'm not going to just bash you when you come here. Right. If you've seen my other conversations with other people that I disagree with, I don't shout at them, I don't yell at them, I let them talk, and I give my perspective and my understanding and my point of view.
Is this somebody else you listen to?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. It's
Joe Rogan's the best at that because he is so... He's like that in everyday life, too. He doesn't call anyone out. He does laugh at people he thinks are just absolutely crazy. Yes, he will call them out and be like, this is utterly ridiculous. Like, why anyone is listening to this makes no sense.
Right.
But he's so open, always, and not just on his podcast, but in his everyday life, it seems. He's so open, and he's one of those people where anyone feels comfortable talking with him, even if they disagree with him.
Yeah, and then it's interesting, too, because he's able to, especially now, like what he's been able to grow into, he's not only able to talk about people, like... It's so fascinating to watch him talk because he gives credit where credit is due, but also will critique.
Yep.
But also like because nowadays like a lot of people just want to hear they want to see the guy take this other guy, throw him outside, kick some dirt on him, spit on him when he's down, and like keep at it. But Joe has this like, look, I do not agree with X, Y, and Z. However, this guy is also a human being. Like he gives credit to the fact that like people are not so black and white as we have now betrayed everybody to be. Yeah. And
that's what's great about John Wick is that no one is black and white in this movie.
That's what's so amazing.
There is no one, and the only ones who we can think of as black and white are the people we never see and only hear about. John's wife is one of them.
Right.
When you get into the other movies, Halle Berry's daughter is another one, but it's the only people who you could put in either category are the ones we never actually meet and only hear about.
All the rest, even if it's just like a quick encounter, there's already something to that character. Like the perfect example is that bartender that we meet in the underground bar. She has like 3 sentences,
but you instantly fall in love with her character. Because of, again, it's so good at doing this. You're able to tell what the character is about and who they are simply based on how they interact with John. The way that they respond to John, the way that they greet John, you're able to know exactly who that person is. When Perkins greets John, she goes, "Nice seeing you again, John." You see that glint of like, I don't necessarily believe that you're what everyone says, but I still respect you as a colleague.
Yeah.
But there's that disconnect with him and Perkins. Like Perkins knows or doesn't know, but she believes she's on the same level.
Yeah, and
you see that. Whereas like the bodyguard, the big guy, he goes. He says Mr. Wick.
Yeah.
He doesn't say John Wick. He says Mr. Wick. So you see, you immediately know, just based off of a greeting to the main character. And you immediately know the person. With the bartender who you were talking with, she goes, "Oh my God, John."
Yeah.
And she's ecstatic to see him. Because she was worried about him. She cared about him, obviously.
To the point where, and she makes one of the most ballsy comments I'd ever seen anyone, like, she's like, "I've never seen you like this." And John's like what? Vulnerable.
Yeah.
And you're going, you did not just call John Wick vulnerable. Like, any other person would have gotten a pencil to the throat. Like, I was like, are you kidding? Like, this girl has got to have some of the but it just proves, like...
It also shows the relationship they had, though,
yeah.
too. It was much, much closer.
Which is interesting because to give that much, like, credit or it's interesting.
I know what you're trying to say. I know the word, too. To give...
Gravitas?
No. With these words.
A certain je ne sais quoi.
Oh, God. French people are just going to shoot you.
A lot of people are. No. I apologize for the last hour now.
No. It's to allow someone in that much to show actually no. Better yet, she uses the perfect word, to allow yourself to be seen as vulnerable by that person.
Yeah.
When I think about it, I do think that there are a few people that are able to see that in John. She's obviously one of them. Winston's another.
Yeah, for sure.
And Willem Dafoe's character, Marcus. His name, Marcus. Those three are able to see the vulnerability in John. And that's why they care about him so much. That's why Winston calls him Jonathan.
Yeah.
That's why Marcus talks to him as a friend, as an equal, as someone who cares about him. Why she's so ecstatic to see him, but is also very sad to see him there again.
Marcus is such a perfect character for the introduction to John Wick. I'm thinking about it now, I feel like, unfortunately, as much as I love Marcus, he wouldn't work in the other films because then it starts to look like John needs backup.
Right.
And that's not the point of John's character. Yeah. But in this beginning where John is going back and forth of whether I jump into this life or just, try and skirt it.
Well, and that's why when you think about it, too, once Marcus dies, that is John immediately giving into everything.
Yeah. More so than when he's in, when he's been captured and he's in that chair and he's saying that he's back. It's one thing to say you're back. Then something has to happen to really solidify that. Yeah, and that was
Marcus's death.
Yeah, and because you could tell, when he sits down on the staircase next to Marcus, you could see on his face there's such
if this happened to Winston, if this happened to Sharon, if this happened to who's the other guy I'm thinking of?
Aurelia?
Maybe not Aurelio, because I think Aurelio is a lower rung person.
It's interesting that they have a connection, and not.
Well, it's because I think it's more because Aurelio works with Vigo.
Well, probably John's car guy,
and that too. So he knows John, but he's not necessarily John's friend like Marcus was, like Winston is, like Sharon is. There's still... I'm forgetting one other person. Who the heck is it?
Who else? Did we see them in the first one?
Mm-hmm.
There's Mark... Okay, so... Who do we have so far? Let's run down the list. We've got
Marcus. We've got
Winston.
Maybe I was thinking this, but maybe I'm not 100% on this one. So I think the other person could be the bartender.
Okay.
Once he came back into this life, because more than likely for those 5.5 years, he hadn't seen Marcus.
Yeah.
He hadn't seen Winston. He hadn't seen Sharon. He hadn't seen that bartender. Obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. But now that he's back in that place, you could put, I feel, any one of those other three. Maybe not the bartender, but I feel like there was something there. There was some
they
kind
would
of
have had to dive more into it before.
It would have, but you replace Marcus with any one of those other three. And I think any one of them dying solidifies John back in.
For sure. But unfortunately though, like, Marcus is the best.
Yes, I still agree that Marcus is the best one because he was the only one, I think. For all I know, Marcus could have actually seen him out within those 5.5 years. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure he hasn't. But he could have been the one person who still saw John in his new life.
Well, yeah, because it seems like other than Winston, Marcus was really the only other character that really valued and made sure that he put that on John, that he valued how John got out.
Yeah.
Even Winston, that whole speech of like, you dip even a pinky back in this life, you might find something reaching back out. Yeah. But like and even like Marcus, he's like, okay, like you killed Victor, you won, like
time to go home.
Yeah. Like you've done, like, as there's definitely are those characters. I would really like to know more about Marcus. Like, was he a mentor? Was he like somebody that was at odds, and then they was one of those, because we'll start to see later on that he, generous is the wrong word, but the people who earn his respect even through a fight, he will give them the honor of not dying. Yeah. He'll
give them the option of not dying.
Option. That's a better word.
There's a fight in the second movie that we will talk about in our next video.
Oh, which, by the way, it's John Wick until the end. Until we get like the next 2 episodes. I don't know why I was gonna say more than that, unless the 4th one comes out.
Oh God, I want that movie so bad.
I wonder how everything's gonna work now, because they really wanted to put John Wick 4 and The Matrix 4 out at the same day, and
I'm not excited for The Matrix 4.
I'm like, after what, and it's interesting too. I was having this thought, now that, like, okay, final thoughts on John Wick. Phenomenal film. You get a 10 out of 10. There's your gold star.
Yeah, but I'm with that.
But it's interesting.
We didn't even go into the training that he went through for these movies. We could do that in another one of the episodes. Because
now that we're kind of branching off from that, we could totally highlight this, because actually it'll tie into what I'm about to say, and we can bring it in, because it's interesting that, like, Keanu Reeves for sure always been a take-home staple,
as they say, the hardest working man in Hollywood.
Right. And his humanness, if that's not a word, but his...
I know what you mean.
his ideas and thoughts about how he interacts with the world at the level he's at, phenomenal. But it's interesting that this, like, it wasn't until this movie, right, on some level, like, at least for me, it wasn't until this movie where, like, you really understand how powerful of an actor he is. And it's really unfortunate that I'm seeing it in this way, because, and I'll explain why, the unfortunate part, because when you watch him, it's phenomenal to watch him in this space with almost no lines. Yeah. And it's interesting that almost, at least from my opinion, what I saw when I saw this film and I saw the reaction from a lot of people, I saw a lot of people with the reaction of like, "Whoa, how great is, like, Keanu Reeves?" And it's like, why does it take a movie of him not talking for, like, people to understand, like, how, like, and this is a critique of myself too. I was like, how, like, it was the same. You look at it and you go, wait, so, like, he has to not talk for me to like remember how phenomenal of an actor it is. It was like the same, and I was thinking about this last night, like up until like when we were talking about what movie we should do next. I had the same opinion or the same like connection or thought with Leonardo DiCaprio. He was this amazing actor, and it wasn't until The Revenant where he basically didn't Revenant. There you go. Where it wasn't until was it? I don't know what it is about things, but the moment like I get the
You've
word.
now made me second guess how to say it.
Revenant.
I'm pretty sure it's
not Reverend.
No.
Now I'm.
Oh God. What did you just do to my brain?
See, I do this all the time. Like, honestly,
it's got to be The Revenant.
I've been low key, and I don't know why I say low key. Nobody cares. But I've been getting back into like video games. Have you seen like the new like Call of Duty Cold War?
Nah, Call of Duty just.
Okay.
They lost.
I don't play Call of Duty. I play Zombies, which is a completely different atmosphere.
Fine.
But it is like, okay, so I've been playing with my two cousins.
Yeah, Revenant. Revenant.
Not Reverend.
No, it's The Revenant.
Revenant. Revenant? Revenant.
Revenant. Revenant. Revenant.
I don't know how they pulled off that scene where he got attacked by a bear, but that is the most like scary thing.
I know how they did it. There's this massive guy in a kind of like it's a motion capture suit? Like big motion capture kind of like I want to say like it's like a bear motion capture suit. He has like certain parts that come off that look like the bear. And he's like legitimately dragging Leo around, doing all that stuff to him. He's like picking him up, throwing him down, scraping him across he's like doing all this stuff, and you're just like, holy crap. It's
so, I don't know why it is so, and I've been finding out this with some things too, like, I don't know why it's so interesting to me that that's the case. Like,
dude, I go back for Leonardo DiCaprio. My absolute favorite movie is still Inception. I go back to that movie so often because it's so good.
You want to fight? Because I don't really care for that film.
Oh man,
I've had this problem for so long. Like, Lexi loves Inception, and she's tried to get me to watch it a few times. And do not get me wrong, this is not a hit on the movie. People like it. There are some things people like. There are some things they don't.
I
agree. You go in between. But with Inception, I don't know. And it's
does it mess with your brain too much?
See, and at first that would be like, okay, like it's just like too complicated.
Oh, that's my dad.
But
he hates that movie.
What's interesting to me, I love complexity. Like, at least I would like to say that I love complexity. Like, I love the inner workings of the mind and how you can build upon that, or how the worlds you can create within your own. Like, it's such a relative space to how powerful our brains are, even though it takes it way more science fiction than what is actually possible.
Well, sharing dreams with people, yeah.
But like the idea of your being able to manifest yourself with your, like, so much relies on keeping all of that in your head. You have to keep it, like, the dream world, the not dream world being in it, like all of that needs to play. And for Leonardo's and his character is one of those ones. And now again, like, I haven't watched the film all the way through, but I do know that his character has a very adept ability of understanding the rules that can be bent in the dream world, but more importantly, what he can bend in reality, not in the sense of like his brain morphing reality, but what his ideas can now rephrase or reposition what's actually happening in the real world.
Yes.
Like,
the whole point of the movie.
The whole point of the movie. Why I can't get to liking it, I have no idea.
You've never watched it all the way through.
It's one of those things where I would love.
How far have you gotten?
I would love to say I watched it all the way through, but probably in more actuality, I've seen it all the way through.
In segments.
My brain loses focus at like certain at moments in the film for some reason, that it just like it. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's interesting.
You and I have to test this. I need to see kind of what happens when you watch this film,
because we have
to do this film eventually.
It's one of those things where I think like, you know, it happens. I think like the more like busier I get, the harder I find it to seem like to be able to sit down and watch things that are that like complex, because there's so much pulling my mind in other directions, because that is one of those films where you need to watch.
But here's a question then. Did you have the same... Oh man, I may punch you if you say you have the same reaction to this movie. Your reaction to to Interstellar.
Oh, I didn't like that film.
Oh my god!
I really like the film. But there was a
guys. I don't know who I'm talking to.
I know there was. I love. Do not get me wrong.
He says he loves complexity. I don't believe this for a second.
I love. Okay, there are. One, I love Matthew McConaughey. Shout out to his book Green Lights. If you haven't I'm not telling you to read the book. But was that an air high five?
Yes. Well, no, just more like a high.
His like, honestly, he's phenomenal. And like that movie has a lot of phenomenal aspects to it. And there are parts of it that I really liked. And it's interesting, that is also another film that I really like, and at the same moments I like, I also don't like. Like when it gets to the end, and he's kind of in that
Tesseract. He's in a fourth dimensional space,
looking at all those possibilities of the world unfold. That was one of the coolest things to watch and to experience. What I guess I couldn't grasp, and again, maybe it's one of those films I need to watch again. I just couldn't understand why he was there.
We'll do an extra long video on both those.
Yeah, Interstellar.
We'll watch them together.
The Revenant. It's like my brain knows what it is and knows what to say, but the moment I get there, it doesn't want to say the word. Like the reason why, like I brought up, like, so I've been playing like zombies online, and it's been a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And I've been playing with my two cousins and my twin, and we play for hours and hours and hours. And they're like super intense about it. They're like super like we needed like they have like a strategy.
Right.
Last time I checked, it was a video game. That's not a gripe against them. That's more of a gripe against me because I just can't.
You do need.
I can't get into it. Like I think I need too much of like I need too much to be like the funny guy in the room. So like even when we're playing the game, I see opportunities where I know I will die if I do it, but it'll be hilarious if I pull it off or don't pull it off. Because it's like there's like the youngest cousin.
So then you'd probably actually be a good like gameplay YouTuber then.
I don't know, because my other tail point of it is like sometimes I find something that's funny and then I just drill it into the wall like until it's like no longer funny, like, or I'll just shout random things. Like I've like throughout every match, almost every 5 minutes, I'm just like meh, 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 for no reason, and they're like, "Oh, did you find something?" I go meh, 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 meh. And they're like, "That doesn't answer my question. Where are you?" And then I'm like, "I'm down. I need somebody to come save me." And then it's funny, like they'll run over, save me, I'll get back up, and because I'm too in now, because I know I'm down and I no longer have to worry about the controls, I'm now too up here trying to think of something else stupid to say. So it's like they'll like run, use all their abilities, save me, and they're like, you're up, and I'm like, I'm up, I'm down again. They're like, what did you do? I said, nothing. I didn't do anything. I got up and I just watched the horde come and kill me again. Like, I literally, like, got back up and was like, now's a good time for a snack. Oh, no! I do that so much. It's so bad.
I'd probably get very annoyed at you, too.
Yeah, there is this, like, it is a weird level of humor meets annoyance.
Here's the thing. I wouldn't find that nearly as annoying if we were playing a game that didn't require teamwork.
Yeah, and
if we're playing a game where like it's every man for himself and it's some kind of weird competition, then it'd be very, very funny and I would not get annoyed. But if it's a team effort type of thing and you're still pulling that shit, and that's where I would get angry.
And I can't do the mic thing, throws me off. Like I don't know, and like. In terms of like, I don't know when I'm speaking or when I'm not speaking, because it's like I'll be sitting there. Well, I'll be sitting there. Well, I'm not speaking, but like I don't know how much like other noises like carry through the mic. So like, let's say like I get down,
not a
right?
super amount.
Well, apparently my mic displays everything to the world. Like I'll be sitting there like, and they're like, who's breathing?
Okay,
like
if you're breathing that loud, I'm sorry, it doesn't matter what mic you have, it's picking that up.
They're like, turn the mic down. Or like I'll grab like, I always choose the worst gaming snacks. Like I'll choose like potato chips. And I'm just like, will somebody stop? Will somebody get on? I always think, did you ever see Penguins of Madagascar?
Yes, of course.
Yes,
when
he's
eating
the
Cheetos.
We're a highly formed skill, and a team.
He just starts twitching.
I can feel it I can feel the rest of my teammates just cringing. It's honestly, it's horrible.
Oh God, I would shoot you. I'd down you myself if that's how you respond.
Here's what's great. I start to do it so much, and no matter how much they tell me to stop, it gets to this weird point where they don't want to hear it, but they're also doing it now too. So it's like I'm like meh, and they're like, God, that's so annoying. And then I won't say it for like 20 minutes, and then somebody like within an instinct just is like meh.
And then everyone else goes, "You're gonna die next."
It's so bad. There's this. It's funny because like me and a buddy, like I don't know what, like a year or two, like I don't know remember when, but a group of us went out to La Jolla.
Okay.
And instead of saying La Jolla, the guy was like, "Hey, you want to go to La Jolla?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then the whole trip, he's just like, "La Jolla, let's go to La Jolla." And so, as of, you know where this is going. I get on the mic and I'm like, "Hey guys, you ever been to La Jolla?"
Oh no.
And they're like, "This is the dumbest thing you've ever said." And then I won't say it for like a couple of days, and then I'll get back on the mic, and all of them are like, "La Jolla!" And I'm like,
oh God.
And it's, you know, those things like when you find, like you say something and you immediately regret it, but you're angered with yourself. It's and I think that's why, like, I'll repeat myself so many times, because I want like the moment I get another person to say the thing that they hate me saying, and now you can see their react, like you can hear it. They're like, "Lawyer, oh, why am I doing this to myself? This is not the word I want in my head," and it eats at them. Like if now it's to this like, and I'm just not talking about like the game, but like there are these moments, especially like with my twin, where like even now like it's been like a while since like we've talked, and I'll get on the phone, and you can almost tell like he's waiting for me to say it. He doesn't want me to say it, but it's this weird like
he's ready for it, but
he's
at the
ready
same time,
for
he's annoyed.
it. And until it doesn't come, it's like damn it, I'm gonna say it now. It's so awful. I'm a horrible person, but I'm fair and I'm kind. You know those this is gonna be like a totally like not even close to what we were talking about. But do you have one of those showers that's also a bathtub?
No, I used to.
But you've seen that, like, especially like in hotels, right?
I've had them, yeah.
There's always like, and there's that like metal like knob switch
that
thing
changes
that
it, yeah.
changes it. Okay, so I don't know why, but all of a sudden, like, I want to say a couple weeks ago or something, it wasn't like shifting to the up position. Was
it stuck or was it just not working when you did it?
It wasn't. It wasn't working.
Okay.
So it was stuck. It was
stuck down.
Like
okay.
and stuck to the point where like cement stuck. Like there were these like it was honestly the weirdest thing. Like my
try a hammer.
My girlfriend goes to take a shower and she's like, I can't. It won't switch to the shower. And I was like, well, that's because you're not pulling hard enough. Like on the I thought like
you were being a jerk.
I was being a jerk. Yeah, we all do it.
I know we do.
It's like you get that like it's like when somebody's in the shower and they turn off the shower and they go, hey, and you're like, what? And you're like, can you give me a towel? Yeah. It's like, really? The only thing you needed after a shower is a towel. It's the one thing that's always in the bathroom. Why do you not have one? So I think to myself like,
or toilet paper. Both of those, yeah.
So I was like, okay, let me just go over here and pull on this knob and it'll be done. So I go over there and like give it and it fights me. And I'm like, no, that's not how this works. Like, this is a little like metal knob. I've been doing push-ups. Give me a break here. I'm like, and it's like not moving to the point where I put my foot up on the like tub and I'm like trying to yank it, and my girlfriend's like, you're gonna rip the thing off. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, just trying to.
Please tell me it ripped off.
No, it didn't rip off.
God, that would have been amazing.
Well, because she had to get to work. Like, we're running out of time for me to be stupid, which is 99% of the time we're running out of time for me to be stupid. So, and this was to me the funny. Like, it's weird those moments that are like equal, both like high and low. Like it's equally hilarious and equally sad because she just kind of, she looks at me and she's just like, go get a cup. And I'm like, go get a cup? And so I go and get her, because now like the water's only coming out from like the bathtub hose. Oh, so no. all she has to do is like now take this. So it was this and I just like paused and was like staring at her face. Like she's like, can you go get me a cup? And I'm like, a what? No, you're not gonna. That's hilarious. You're not gonna do that. You're not gonna take a shower with it. Oh, you are gonna take a shower with it, because you can see on her face she's like, it was a simple request. Why aren't you getting me this cup? I didn't ask you like what MC equals. Ah, damn it! I was so close. I was like, what is that formula? What is it?
E equals MC squared.
What's it?
E equals MC squared.
That's the one.
The fact you legitimately asked me.
I was like, in my head, I went E equals, and then it came out as EMC squared equals. I was like, well, this is way off. Ever have those moments where you start talking and you can hear the words hitting your ear, and in your brain you're going, those are not the words that I was thinking of. Like, yes. What's happening right now?
Am I having a stroke? Hold on.
So I go and grab like the cup, and she starts taking a shower, and it's freezing cold water, and I'm like, and she's like, oh, it's so cold. So again, this time my brain worked in the opposite. It wanted action over thought process. So I just it just, my hand just, she was like, it's cold. And immediately to fix it, I reached my hand over to like the dial of cold and hot and just fucking crank that thing to and within seconds, it went from, I'm cold to, like, just, and then I panicked. I was like, oh no. And I'm like, instead of turning it back, I'm just sitting there frozen going, no, I've made a mistake. It was horrible. All the way through. I just couldn't.
Oh no.
I just
went action overthought.
It's weird. Sometimes you think before action, it still winds up bad. Sometimes you act before you think, and it still winds up bad. Sometimes you get into a weird lose scenario.
Fudge, that was funny. Oh my god, the wind.
That wind is terrifying.
I'm just hearing like stuff like shake on the roof.
Yeah, and it's been really funny because like I had said like before we started like this podcast, and you asked me like, why are you doing this to yourself? Like I've started, and I want to preface this of like I am in no way, shape, or form like in actually like taking cold showers. That's what I was getting to. So much pre-work, just such a drop off. It's not the bullet that gets you, it's the fall, okay?
What?
Please tell me you've seen, there's this, and I mean, my lifetime it's old, it's not that old of a movie, but The Lone Ranger from the 80s.
You know that we're essentially the same age, right?
Yeah, I know.
In your lifetime, it's old.
There's The Legend of the Lone Ranger, is this movie from the 80s.
The original one and the terrible remake with Johnny Depp.
How dare you? For one, that movie had such potential if they would have stuck to the premise.
Squandered it.
Well, yeah, because they had to change it. Do you know that movie?
For what?
You know
change it from what? Change it from crap to shit?
No. And I'm either gonna say this, and your opinion of the movie is gonna get a lot worse, or I can already feel it's not going to go in the way I want it to. I'm still going to say it, but it's going to go the wrong way. So when that movie was supposed to come out, one of the big, like, and like within the Lone Ranger, they was big on like the silver bullets because like when when they did the movie like beforehand, it was all about like the Indians use like silver tip like arrows, and it's to fly like straighter and true, and that's why like you use silver bullets. So when they were going to make this film, they wanted to really like hamper in on the silver bullets and make the bad guys werewolves. So all of that you see, like even like that main bad guy with like the messed up face and his like kind of thirst for blood, it was all like because his character was supposed to be a werewolf. I know this movie it's not making it any better, but
maybe that would have made it better.
Well, okay,
because I'm thinking now Lincoln versus vampires.
That movie was
which was
amazing.
just fun. It was it was not to be taken seriously in any regard.
Well,
and it was just a funny, weird movie.
And I think look, and I'm nowhere like judging anything that happens because I'm sure like there's a bunch that goes into the movie. There's a bunch of people working on it.
Yeah, but there's far less people to say that's a dumb idea.
Well, okay, the only point that I was going to make is there are these movies, and we've seen them, and I think they've even made like a few suggestions on like the newer X-Men movies. Like they have an idea and they run with it, and then they get about halfway through, and then either because of the studio, the this, the that, whatever the case may be, they wind up changing it.
And it ruins the entire film.
Yeah, because they have all these aspects of a film that's not there anymore.
Dark Phoenix.
Well, case in point, and even like going back to the Lone Ranger, watch that film again, and now think that the bad guys are all werewolves.
And it maybe still kind of works, but I still hated the movie.
Well, it'll work up into a point where because of course they had to skew that line, but the problem is that line is still there.
But the biggest problem I had with the movie is the Lone Ranger himself. He was my biggest problem.
Sometimes you get a thought in your head, and before like sometimes you'll interpret it before like even happens. This has nothing to do with what I just said, but I don't know. It's like poking out of my head. This is again This is not a gripe or anything. It was funny because I was in the kitchen a couple weeks ago, like cooking.
Okay.
And out of absolutely no, I'm cooking dinner for me and my girlfriend. Nothing like I'm peacefully cooking dinner. There was no like I didn't like come home and like punch her in the eye or something like that. Like I was just normal day cooking dinner, and all of a sudden Lexi comes out from the bedroom into the kitchen, and she is just like, fatty, you're a fatty, talking to me. And I turn and I'm like, me? And she's like, dummy, you're a dummy. And I'm like, why are we insulting me in song right now? And and then my other thought was like, could you narrow in on the, am I fat? Am I dumb? Like she had a few more choice words for me. I'm like, can we really zilch in on what's going on here? And she's like, nah, I just felt it. Like, no rhyme or reason. I'm like, yeah, I'm cooking. Like, I was so just bombarded. Like, I was like, all right, that's hurtful. But I guess there's some meaning. Fatty! Like, I was like, what's happening right now? You know, sometimes you put things in a bucket. I'm gonna have these like weird.
What?
That's gonna be my new thing from now on. When like
just random weird sayings that make no sense and hold no water to the conversation.
If the joke isn't working the way I wanted it to, I'm now just gonna end it with like a weird
made up saying by
made up saying that. Okay, well, for one, if we go back 20 minutes, right? And when I said it's not the bullet that gets you, it's the fall.
Yeah, what the hell was that? And then you're like, please tell me you saw that. I'm like, wait, is it from something? Hold on.
It's from something.
What is it from?
It's from the Lone Ranger.
Oh God!
It's from. They're in like a gorge, and they get like ambushed, and
Yes, Kimosabi.
The lead guy, the coward, the guy who becomes a Lone Ranger, whatever his name is or isn't, whatever the case. He's with like the other Rangers, right? And they're all trying to like fight, and they're outgunned, outmanned, and it's like this older guy who's like going through, and they're like, he's just like shooting these like weird, like they're in the middle of a gunfight, and he's like, now's a good time for a lesson, and he's like. And for whatever point, it's like he looks at him and he's like, it's not the bullet that gets you, it's the fall. And he like shoots this guy on this ridge, and he holds his chest, and he falls down, and he dies when he hits the ground. And that's when he says like, it's not the bullet that gets you, it's the fall. I've always tried to read more into it. For the life of me, I can't.
I don't know why I feel like you switched that initially.
What?
It's not the fall that gets you, it's the bullet. I feel like that's what you originally said.
Somebody rewind. Don't do it. Okay. No,
I could be wrong. I feel you originally said it backwards.
I might have. Well, in what I
neither really completely makes sense, but that one at least makes sense within context of the film.
Yeah, well, I always wanted to like wrap my head around it because I'm always like,
maybe you did say it correctly, but I like my brain is going like, he didn't say that initially.
Well, the problem is I say a lot of things a lot of times over, and sometimes I get it right, and I almost will inevitably say the same thing incorrectly again.
Yeah, like reverend.
Whoa! And that was my other point with. Oh wait, now I forgot it. No. Hold on, Nick. Hold on. In Zombies, there's like this machine.
Oh my God, that's what.
You know what's funny? It's like I get this topic in my head, and I'm like, oh, I could tell that. And the moment I start on the topic, I want to go 10 other directions with it. And then 20 minutes later, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I wanted to say. There's this machine in there where like you can like it like upgrades your gun or whatever.
Yeah, and it has that like
Yeah, it's like the power.
Power.
Crap, I'm gonna get this wrong too. It's like a power punch, Packer punch.
Packer punch. Okay.
That could be wrong, because I still to this day they have corrected me. I couldn't even tell you how many times, and it's like, and I think it's one of those things where at first you're gonna you're gonna keep the joke, right? Mm-hmm. Like they try to correct you, and you're just being stupid.
So what is a Packer punch?
It's how you upgrade your gun or whatever. So you pay like a certain amount of credits, and
it is called the Packer punch.
It is called the Packer punch. God damn, this is gonna upset so many people. Maybe one, but that's okay.
See, I don't play this stuff. Don't hate me.
Well, it's because like at first it started off like, okay, I'm just gonna say this funny thing because they take it so seriously. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I gotta puncher pack my gun, and they're like, it's Packer punch, and I'm like, okay, let's punch a pack, and they're like, God damn it, Nick, say it right, and they have spent hours going Packer punch, say Packer, say punch, Packer punch, Packer punch, pack, and I'm like, punch a pack a lunch, pack a
like a flying fish.
Holy moly, guacamole. Hey, that's pretty good. I don't know.
It's not the ball that gets you, it's the bullet.
Yeah. But it got, like those things where you start and you're like, every time they say the right thing, you're going to say the wrong thing.
Yes.
But then this weird thing happens where it's like when you're ready to let the joke die because it wasn't funny to begin with and you want to say it right, but now your brain won't let you say it right. Like, honestly, every time
since... Because you said it wrong.
Because I've said it wrong so many times, I can't.
I have a feeling it's not Packer punch.
I have a feeling it's not Packer punch either. Because every time I go to say it, I'm like, yeah, hey, what's that machine called? Because I'm tired. Because I also, I'm in this weird like moment where it's like I no longer want to say it incorrectly, but I also cannot say it correctly.
You don't remember what it is.
I'm in this weird where it's like, I'm gonna pack a lunch. I'm gonna, damn it, somebody say it before me. I do this with people's names too, because I am awful with people's names. Like I think about this. I think about this sometimes, like because my core group of like friends. Luckily, most of them are named Chris. Like I don't know. Like I have this. I kind of think to myself, like, have I weirdly, like, now created, like, a friend group that helps my brain? Because I'm just so terrible with names. Like, there are people that I've known for 20 years, and I will meet them and just be like, oh, no. Your name's on the tip of my Trevor? Nope.
Mark.
No. Yeah. I used to, like, when I worked at, well, and it was weird, too, because the majority of the places, like, when I worked at Disneyland, we're all wearing a name tag. But I'm too blind to see the name tag. So I was just like... And you can't... It's weird. I mean, you might, like, do the thing where you, like, kind of look at the name tag, but you can't weirdly go closer to the name tag. Like, you can't be like...
Share it.
Tim? John. like you're like, so I'd always do this. So I started getting this habit where I would be like, I just wouldn't say their name. Mm-hmm. Hey, what's up, man, or dude, or whatever the hell, like whatever I'd come up with. And
hopefully, you never had the awkward. Hey,
all the time.
You.
In fact, I would notice myself getting into that awkward moment of, hey, oh shit, I don't know this person's name. It's worse when they know yours.
Well, you know what I do is I always go, hey, what's up, man?
Yeah, I do that. Or what I used to do is like when I worked at places like Disneyland and things like that, I would just wait for somebody else to call that person's name out before I even like, so I would like, hey, what's up? 4 hours later, Steve, my man, what's going on? Because I would be, those 4 hours, I was constantly like, somebody say his godforsaken name. Somebody say his name.
It's the same thing at work, though. It's the same exact thing at work when you have members that come in, and you've helped them so many times, they know exactly who you are, so they'll say, hey, Chris or hey Nick,
Yeah.
before your name tag even comes into view, they've already said your name, and you're like, well, that's wonderful. I have no idea who you are right now.
I will,
and so you wait, you kind of like play it off, or at least I do. I'll play it off until I get like them pulled up, and I'm like, and then I'll just start using their name constantly. But otherwise, I'm going like, hey, dude, what's up, man? It's good seeing you.
I go limp with it. I just go.
Okay.
They go. What's up, Nick? I go. That's unfair. I'm wearing a name tag. And or I'll just do a complete like blank to everything. I'm like, now how do you know my name? This is weird. What's worse is when I look down and I'm not wearing my name tag, and I'm like, it's unfair. You had a. My name's usually here. I go, well, more often than not. Then you try like, then now it becomes like a court case. You're like, well, hey, I wear this more often than you wear your name tag. I don't wear a name tag. What? You just try to confuse. That will be my last defense. Is I just make sure they're more confused or just as confused.
If someone comes in while they're like on break, if they are wearing a name tag, I will look at it. I will immediately go like, okay, before I even get this person, I'm making sure I know their name, and I will look at them and then kind of like look off to the side as we talk, and then immediately kind of glance back and be like, what's that name? Okay.
I don't know, like, sometimes, like, my brain just, like, it just is dead of thought. I don't know, like, a better way. Like, that's a horrible thing to say about myself. But, like, there are times where I go, and I've been dating my girlfriend for 5 years, right? So sometimes I'll honestly look at her and go, what's your brother's name again? And here's what's funny about her brother's name. It's freaking Chris. Like, it's the one name where the majority of the people I know is named, and there are these times where I'll go,
you know, we have another Chris at TO now, right?
Oh, really?
From Pasadena.
Man, and see, like, I've always been fortunate to be able to, like, not know that many Nicks, which is a weird thing to say. I would be fortunate to know any Nicks. There are Nicks that I know that are great human beings. I just, like, in terms of, like, working and things like that, like, there isn't a whole lot of people that I've had a professional, like, that I've worked with that has also been called my name.
Right.
So, like, and I remember, like, when I first started working with you, Chris joined, and fortunately, we just started using his last name.
Well, and my last name. Oh, no.
Well, you became Chris, and he became his last name. Which worked, and there's like weird moments where.
Well, it was actually kind of nice calling him by his last name.
Yeah, I always think that it's interesting out of like the point of like the perspective from you guys, because it is one of those weird things where like I don't know if it's like a silent or like, but you two kind of had at one point had to look at each other and kind of be like, well, are you gonna be Chris? I mean, we're both Chris. But are you going to take Chris and I'll take something else? Do I get to take Chris? Do we both get to share Chris? Like, it is this, like, I don't know, maybe it's not weird at all. Maybe some people are like, oh, I'm Chris and you're Chris. And that's not, and we're normal people and we don't think too far into
weird.
it.
I tend to call them, if they have the same last name as, or same first name as me, I'll call them by last name. It's weird for me to say my name out loud.
Oh, okay.
So to call someone Chris, it's a little bit weird for me, because I'll just be like, that just doesn't feel right. I'm normally the one hearing that.
No, see, you know what? Here's where I will pay an ode to my terrible ego. I hear Nick, and even if the name doesn't belong to me, because there are other people named Nick, like, and I've met people.
Well, when I hear Chris, I turn.
Yeah, well, no, not even that. Like, when I'm talking, like, to another Nick, like, I'm like, hey, like, that's a cool fucking name. Like, weird.
Oh, yeah, no, I say the same thing. Like, oh, you've got a good name, right? And then they'll see my name tag and be like, oh, yeah.
We know something. What we know that other people don't know, I don't know.
Right.
But we both know that we're Nick and other people aren't, okay? Like, I don't know, like, it is that weird, like, you're Nick, I'm Nick. Like, I always want to ask, like, where the name, like, comes from. too, because that sometimes because that plays more of a character into it than the actual name itself.
Yeah.
Like how you got the name is more interesting than the name itself, unless your name is like Ezekiel or something badass like that.
Well, like my freaking nickname Chauncey, which my sister says she has no idea where she came up with that from, but she calls me that.
Isn't that weird too? There are these nicknames that you get that mean like absolutely nothing, and you're like, what? Like it but it means something, of course, but it's also like what is it? Yeah. Like my girlfriend calls me Smeech. What is that? What on this green planet does that even mean? I have no idea, but it's stuck. For 5, and I respond to it. Smeech, yeah, what's up? And I'm like, what does that mean? In her head, it could mean douche or something. You heard her songs.
Hey, I'm not dumbass.
Maybe there's this more polite. Maybe she thinks dumbass and just doesn't want to say it, so she's like, Smeech. That would be horrible. Now every time she's gonna call me that, which is often, I'm gonna think, she calling me a dumbass, but then my other thought will be like, no, she would call you. Yeah. Everybody just heard her song. She probably has a song for it, you know. Damn, I had this story and I lost it.
I do apologize.
No,
I do have to get going.
I lost it. Anyway, I lost it way before it was even like a sad notion of. I've been thinking about losing the story for the last 15 minutes. So it's been gone for 15 minutes, and I've been desperately trying to get it back.
Well, unfortunately, I won't be able to hear it this
well. Until next time.
Yeah.
Until next time.
For sure.
Oh, we don't care. Well, you don't have to say goodbye
Guys,
to them.
Have a good
don't
one.
say goodbye to them.
Goodbye.
No, they don't need to hear you say, "Oh, goodbye."
I believe they do.
They're gonna hear me.
Have a good one.
They're gonna be another segment of this where I'll come back on. This isn't gonna happen, and I'm just be like, officially goodbye. I know that other guy was a jerk, but I'm officially saying goodbye. I'll just throw you under the bus, and then I'll throw it in reverse and just slowly just crawl back over you. Mm-hmm. That was some detailed depth right there.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
I know, that was sad.
Come on, guys.